Hi, I'm Matt from Tuppence. Welcome to another book chat. Okay guys, today's book chat is going to be a long one. I am focusing on my entire Agatha Christie collection because I'm obsessed. And so if you are not into Agatha Christie, or if you're going to find this like really boring, I would suggest you go and watch something else on my playlists, because this is going to be a long one and it's only about Agatha Christie. The other thing I can tell you is each section is timestamped down below. So we're going to do Poirot, we're going to do her standalone books, we're going to do Tommy and Tuppence, we're going to do Miss Marple, we're going to do a whole lot of different things. I will timestamp each one below. Now, the other really exciting thing that I've got for you guys who are watching this video is down below in the comments, there is a printable PDF. All you're going to do is click on the link, and I will explain a bit later in the video what that PDF is, because my Agatha Christie collection is structured very differently to a lot of people's. As opposed to doing all my books chronologically, in other words, in publication order, I've got something a little bit different. I've kind of tweaked it a bit. So with no further ado, let's get into this video. I'm going to start with the Poirot section, okay? And we all know who Hercule Poirot is, and we all love him as our little Belgian detective. And I want to show you how I set up my Poirot collection of books. I have all the Poirot books, okay? So let me show you how I do this. Now, the very first Poirot book, and in fact it's the first book that Agatha Christie wrote, it's called The Mysterious Affair at Styles. And this introduces you to Hastings and Poirot and everybody. And then the very last, it's set at a house called Styles. And then the very last Agatha Christie book that she wrote, the very last Poirot book she wrote, was called Curtain. Okay, that is of course David Suchet, who is the quintessential Poirot. And this is the last Poirot book. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers with any of the books, but I can tell you this really is the very last Poirot book. Now, this book also takes place at the same house many years later. So what I've done is I put those two books together. So I combine them. First, I will read The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and then directly after, I will read Curtain. So I put those two books together, and those are my very first Poirot books in my collection. I'll tell you why. Because in the final book, Curtain, a lot of the first book is mentioned, a lot of the same characters, the same house. So I read these two books as if they are one book. So it's like part one and then part two. So that's how those are my first two Poirot books in the collection. Okay. I'm going to be moving around because I've got my computer set up and I've got books everywhere, so please excuse me. All right, so that's that. The next Poirot books I've got in my collection are all the Hastings books. Now, I have to admit I don't like Hastings as a character. Hastings, I don't know how you pronounce it. I pronounce it Hastings. I don't like him as a character. I find him really stupid. Dof, as we say in South Africa, really dumb. And I really, out of all Agatha Christie's actual main characters, I like him the least. Because he's just really irritating. Now, what I've done here is, with the Hastings books, I've taken them out and I've put them into my sequence in publication order. Okay. Now, I know Hastings appears in both Curtain and the other one, Affair at Styles, but I've taken those out, put them separately, and then I've gone on to the Hastings novels, and I've put them in publication order. So the first Hastings novel I've got is The Murder on the Links. A very strange, this is the Dover Mystery Classics edition. I really hate it, but it was cheap, so I got it. So there's Murder on the Links, which is the next, the first Hastings book. Then I've got The Big Four. Not a fan of this book, but anyway, that's also Hastings. So there I've got that one. Then I've got Peril at End House, one of my favorites, and these are all in publication order, okay? Then I've got Lord Edgware Dies, another one of my favorites. The ABC Murders. I've got Dumb Witness. I've read this about 50 times. Love this book. And then I've got, this is a difficult one because it's actually an Agatha Christie play that was turned into a novel by Charles Osborne, and it is called Black Coffee, but it does have Hastings in it. So I put this as the last Hastings book in the Hastings collection. Okay, so that gets rid of all the Hastings books, okay? Next, I have what I call the two exotic location books, okay? And the first one I have is Evil Under the Sun, I've got these two in publication order as well. Evil Under the Sun, which is set on an island. Okay, fantastic book. This is also Poirot, obviously, and this is set on an island. I think it's just off the Devon coast, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, the other one is Murder on the Orient Express. And I say this is an exotic location because, as you all know, he's trapped on the train by the snow, and it's kind of like a very different, a different story. Okay, so those are the two exotic location books I then have in the collection. After that, I have got what I call the Egyptian books, okay, the Egyptian stories. I'm just moving my books closer. So the first Egyptian story in publication order is Murder in Mesopotamia. Fantastic book. Okay, Murder in Mesopotamia, really clever. All right, so I've got that one. Then I have one called Appointment with Death. This is my favorite one. Now, these are not all set in Egypt, but these are kind of like when she was on the archaeological digs, she wrote these books. So it's kind of, I call it like Egyptian books. So this is Appointment with Death, a very clever book. And then, of course, one of her most famous books is, of course, Death on the Nile. Again, very strange little, it's a little book. It's not the same as all my other ones, but that's fine. Death on the Nile. So that's the three Egyptian books. I call them the Egyptian books. Okay. Next up, I have the Ariadne Oliver books. Now, Ariadne Oliver, as you know, was a character that Agatha Christie based on herself. And I just love her as a character. She's freaking awesome. And what I've done with that is, although I've taken the Ariadne books out of publication order in the mainstream, I've actually put them in publication order of the Ariadne books, if that makes any sense. Kind of makes sense to me. If you click on the link below, you will get a printed PDF of all of this. Okay, but I'll explain that a bit later. So the first Ariadne Oliver book is Cards on the Table. Okay. Then we have Mrs. McGinty's Dead, all right, pretty cool book as well. These have all got Ariadne Oliver in them as Poirot's sidekick. Then we have Dead Man's Folly. I then have a really, really good, one of my favorites, Halloween Party. Okay, shocking ending to this book when you discover who the murderer is. Elephants Can Remember. Okay, and then the worst, one of my worst Agatha Christie books, in fact, I think it's the worst Agatha Christie book, is Third Girl, also involving Ariadne Oliver. Okay, so those are the 6 Ariadne Oliver books, 6, and they are all separated out from the mainstream and put into publication order. Okay, I'm going to just stretch over you for a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay, then we come to the Poirot books that are not. They are kind of standalone Poirot books. They don't have any specific fantastic character in them. And what I've done with these is I have placed these simply in publication order, okay, in order of date of publication. So the first one is, of course, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, Christie's most famous book ever, okay. This is quite a nice one. That's a reproduction of the actual original first edition cover. There were a whole lot of these, but they're hellishly expensive. And I picked this up secondhand. But that's that. So Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Then was The Mystery of the Blue Train. Interesting, Agatha Christie hated this book. Out of all her books that she ever wrote, she said this was the most hideous. She hated it. So there's that. Then, of course, there's Death in the Clouds, another one of my favorites. Such a cool book. Then there's 3-Act Tragedy. It's okay. We then have 1-2 Buckle My Shoe. Okay. I don't know if you guys can, I hope you can see these. Otherwise I'm going to have to redo this whole video. Sad Cypress, fantastic. 5 Little Pigs, one of the quintessential Christies, very, very good. We then have The Hollow, okay. Don't you guys just love the color of the covers of this edition, these editions? I think they're awesome. Then we have Taken at the Flood, another funny little book. It's HarperCollins. It's got that weird texturized, I love the texture of the cover, but it's a funny little size. Okay, so Taken at the Flood. Then we have After the Funeral, not my favorite. We have Hickory Dickory Dock. We have Cat Among the Pigeons, very, very fun book, great fun. And then we have The Clocks, which is this one here, also not one of my favorites. Okay, so that's The Clocks. So those are the Poirot books that are all in publication order. They don't have any specific Hastings or Ariadne Oliver or anything like that, okay? So I just put them in publication order. Then the book that I've singled out for a very specific reason is Hercule Poirot's Christmas, okay? I pulled this out because it's a Christmas book. It is a standalone book, but I thought, let me end the collection with a fun little Christmas book. So I've put this one at the very end, just before the short story books. So I have got, this is how I've put them together. Poirot's Early Cases, okay, because I've taken all the short story books and put them at the end. So this is Poirot's Early Cases, okay. Then I have Poirot Investigates, okay. Then I have Murder in the Mews. Love this book. I've read it about 10 times. Love it. All right. And then, of course, the book that I'm busy reading at the moment, as you can see, okay, is The Labor of Hercules. Loving me, that cover. And that is that. That is the entire Hercule Poirot collection. Now, if you look below and you click that link, which will take you to the PDF, printable PDF, there is an Excel document that has got a whole lot of stuff. Okay, I'm looking at it on the screen. You've got your main page, you've got your Poirot page, Marple page, Tummy and Tuppence page, the Tummy and Tuppence page. You can see exactly how I've laid all these books out. So if you want to, you can stack your books, you can align your books in exactly this order. Okay, it's all there in a PDF. So you can print it for free. I'm giving you something. Love it. Okay, so that is Poirot. Hi, and welcome back to part 2 of this video. We're going to be looking at the Miss Marple books. And this one's not so bad because I've only jiggled a few books around. I think the Poirot section was the most that I jiggled, but I've also kind of jiggled this around a little bit. So with Marple, I've kind of stuck to the publication date order, okay? But what I've done is I've started with the 13 problems. And the reason I've started with this, it's a book of collected short stories. But in this, it introduces 90% of the characters that you're going to find in the Miss Marple books. So it introduces her nephew, and it introduces the Dolly, somebody other, the ladies in the village, and of course you get to know a bit about Miss Marple. So that's the first one I put in the Marple collection. Also, it's a nice short book to see if you like the character. So that's number 1, okay? Then we go into publication order. So from 1930, from Murder at the Vicarage, Body in the Library, The Moving Finger, love this book, A Murder is Announced, okay? They Do It with Mirrors, also a very clever book. Pocketful of Rye, not one of my favorites. 450 from Paddington, absolutely love this book. It's so, so good, okay? The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, fantastic. There's actually a film with, what's her name? Oh my God, I can't even remember her name. Elizabeth Taylor in this movie of this book. We have At Bertram's Hotel, okay? That's after The Mirror Cracked, all right? Then we have Sleeping Murder, okay? Miss Marple's last case. All right, but I have jigged that around because after Sleeping Murder, I've taken these 2 books. I've taken A Caribbean Mystery and Nemesis. Now, you must read A Caribbean Mystery first and then Nemesis. If you read them the other way around, they're spoilers. So these 2 books kind of overlap with character development. So first read A Caribbean Mystery, then read this, okay, Nemesis, all right? And then what I've done is I've put in Miss Marple's Final Cases, okay, which is kind of it's kind of the last book, all right, one of the last books. So this is a short story book, so I've put that in as her last cases. Now, where are all her short stories, you say to me? Well, here they are here. Monstrous tome. Okay, this book is all Agatha Christie's short stories relating to Miss Marple. So it's the Miss Marple mystery stories, okay? And this is all the short stories that are not in Miss Marple's Final Cases and the 13 Problems. So this is everything except those 2 books. Okay, this is all her other short stories with Miss Marple in them. All right. You also get this with Hercule Poirot, so you don't have to buy the 4 end books. But this is all her short stories. And that is the Miss Marple collection, slightly jigged. Right, hi, welcome back to the third and smallest section of this video. Now we're going to have a look at the Tommy and Tuppence collection. There are only 5 books in the whole collection, and of all Agatha Christie's characters, these 2 characters, Tommy and Tuppence, husband and wife, are the only ones to age progressively through the actual books. Okay, so I've switched the first 2 books out. Okay, the first book that was printed was Partners in Crime, but I've taken the second book and made that into the first book, which is a book of, it's called The Secret Adversary, and it is a collection of short stories which introduce you to the characters. It introduces you to how they actually started. All right, short stories, but it introduces you to the very, very first way that these 2 characters actually met in 1922. So that's the first book I've got. And then the rest are in publication order. I've then got Partners in Crime. Okay. I've got N or M, one of my favorites. All right. I've then got By the Pricking of My Thumbs, also a very good book, Tommy and Tuppence. And then I end with the last book, which is Postern of Fate, when they're both elderly, and I think they actually they mention that they've got like grown-up children and things. Okay, so that is the Tommy and Tuppence. 5 books, short, easy read. You can read those in a week. Tommy and Tuppence. One of my favorite Agatha Christie characters, or 2 of my favorite characters. Right, section 4. These are what I term Agatha Christie standalone books. They have got no very specific characters. They have 1 or 2 characters that pop up now and again, but these are her standalone books. They're books that she wrote in between the Miss Marple, Tommy and Tuppence, and Hercule Poirot series. So this is not a series of books. These are all standalone. You can just pick one up and read it. Okay. What I've done, again, I have broken these up into certain little sections. Okay. So instead of doing this all in publication order, I've kind of sorted these books into a slightly more coherent way of reading them. So the very first 3 books, don't worry about publication order, the very first 3 books I have they are what I term her supernatural books. Now Agatha Christie didn't really write supernatural stuff except for a book that I'll show you just now. But these are books that are mysteries, her mystery books that have got a slightly supernatural element to them that is actually proved to be false. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler, but these 3 are what I call her supernatural books. And the first one is called Endless Night. Okay. The next one is called The Pale Horse. Okay. And the third one is called The Sitterford Mystery. Now, all 3 of these books have got a slightly supernatural kind of twist to them, or a slightly otherworldly twist to them. That is why I've grouped them together, and I've put them together as the first 3 books in the standalone collection. Okay. Next, I've taken a very interesting character that pops up in a couple of books, but there are 4 books where he is kind of the main character, and his name is Superintendent Battle. And I really like his books because he's a really cool character. I wish she'd actually done a whole series of Superintendent Battle books, but she didn't. She did 4, and then he crops up in a couple of short stories. But the first one is called The Secret of Chimneys, where he kind of is the main character. We then have The 7 Dials Mystery, which is a very cool book, very interesting. Okay. Superintendent Battle solves Murder is Easy. Okay, he does that one. And then he also is the main character in Towards Zero. Okay, so those are the 4 Inspector Battle books. All right. Pretty good books, I must say, with him as the main character. Then we go into purely publication order, okay? That is The Man in the Brown Suit, which was 1924. She wrote this. It's another one of those funny little ones with a weird cover, that funny feeling cover, and it's much smaller than the rest, but that's fine. So Man in the Brown Suit, okay. Why didn't they ask Evans? Excellent! Oh my God, this book is just so good. It's like one of my faves, okay. That was from 1934. So they're going to go in, these are going in publication order. And then, of course, a very, very famous one that has had many names. It's called And Then There Were None. All right, then one of my favorite, these are all my favorites. This is one of my favorites. It's called Sparkling Cyanide. Very clever ending to this, okay? Then we have probably one of my very favorite Agatha Christie's, like really favorites. It's called Crooked House. And again, the ending to this book is really, it caused a big stir when it came out, okay? So it's called Crooked House. Then I've got another play that she wrote that's also being turned into a novel by Charles Osborne, and it's called Spider's Web. Fantastic, very funny, a very funny book, strangely enough. It's very comic, but this is worth getting, and of course, I've popped it in here because it was published, originally the play was published in 1954, but this novelization was from the year 2000. Okay, but I slotted in there 1954, okay? And then, of course, I have Ordeal by Innocence, which was published in 1958. All right, so those are her standalone novels that I've popped in there in publication order. The next three novels I have are what I term her spy novels. I don't like these three books very much. They're kind of like James Bond type books. So if you're into that kind of thing, then you'll love these three books. But to me, they are very political books, and Christie had very, very specific ideas on politics and politicians and the two wars that she lived through. And I just found these three books very political. So I've put these three books at the end of her standalone novels. And these books are They Came to Baghdad, then Destination Unknown, okay, and then Passenger to Frankfurt. I call those three books her spy books, okay. Now, I only have one Agatha Christie short story book, apart from the Marple books and the Hercule Poirot. I'm talking about her standalone short story books because I don't really like a lot of the short stories she has, okay. But there's a book that she wrote, it's very weird, it's called The Hound of Death. This is it here. And these are supernatural short stories, okay. These are kind of Christie writing as if she's kind of like Mary Shelley, okay. This book is great. It's completely bizarre, completely not like Agatha Christie, but it was a huge success when it came out. People were like, oh wow, Agatha Christie's written supernatural, like, books and that sort of thing. So this is the only one that I've actually bought. It's the only short story standalone that I've got. And then Agatha Christie also wrote like a really, really weird book. It's called Death Comes as the End, and it's set in ancient Egypt in the year 2000 BC. And it's a murder mystery, but it's ancient Egyptian characters, okay? And I've never known what to do with this book. It doesn't fit in anywhere because it's so bizarre. You can't really put it in with the Egyptian books because those are Poirot books. And so what I've done with this is I've taken The Hound of Death and then I've just basically slotted this in as the absolute last book in the standalone series. So those are the Agatha Christie standalone books. Now there are some other books that she wrote that I don't have, but I'm hoping to get them for Christmas, or perhaps my birthday this year, okay? And I'm going to go to this page that I've got here. There are two books that are really strange. The one is called The Mysterious Mr. Quinn, and the other one is called Parker Payne Investigates. It's spelled P-Y-N-E, so some people say Parker Pine. I think the correct way of saying is Parker Payne, but it doesn't matter. He's a very cool character. These books, I either love them or I hate them. It depends on what mood I am when I read them. They're very quick reads. They're short stories, but those are the two main characters. And you can read them in an afternoon. They're so like chop, okay, quick. But it depends on what mood I read them in. Either I absolutely hate them or I absolutely love them. So yeah. And then of course I have a lot of books about Christie and books that are non-fiction, which I'm going to do a completely separate video on the non-fiction Christie books I have. Down below, go and have a look. There is the PDF. It's exactly the same PDF I'm looking at. It's got the main set of how I've got the book set up. It's got all the Poirot books. It's got the standalone books, the Miss Marple books, the Tommy and Tuppence books, these other books, and then the very last tab is the books in publication order. So from the first book that you published to the last book that you published. So that's an easy way. That's another way that you can set all your books up. Guys, this has been a really long video, and if you've stayed with me until now, thank you so much. As I said, there are timestamps below if you'd like to rewatch the video and just go to your favorite section. You know who I am. I'm Tubby Tarot, and I will see you again next week for some more book chat. Bye.